What's the true outcome of the protests in the United Kingdom? Most people do not understand those things, so I must explain them. The official outcome is that the protests died out after a few weeks without achieving anything to change the general situation for the better anyhow in Britain, as it was expected. Hundreds of people ended up detained, arrested, sentenced to jail and fees. Thousands more will be tracked down by the police with time ending up on a watch list or worse. Now, what is the reality of the aftermath from the protests? Hundreds of people who were left on their own when the police came for them at home and ended up sentenced will be discouraged from participating in anything similar in the future. Thousands of people who were observing the events and the aftermath will learn from those protests how ineffective they really are and will fear in the future to join any similar events. The mass media used those events as ammunition to spread demonizing propaganda by showing how violent, dangerous and hateful right-minded people are, even if the support of protesters among the British people was significant. Less than 2% of the supporters had the courage and will to openly participate in the protests on the streets, exposing in the process that people are way too scared or divided to stand up for each other, even in dire situations. So in general, more rebellious people will be losing hope, being more demoralized about the situation, which will backfire badly at any future similar actions or any call for action. But please, tell me honestly, what were you people expecting? What were you hoping for? Why do you follow incompetent, charismatic leaders who are either too short-sighted to see the long-term outcomes or do not fully understand the situation? Or the people who are emotionally driven? The outcome of such actions was easily predictable, and all the damage done to the movements of the right of the British rebellious people in general could have been avoided. When you protest against the mainstream narrative, the government will be ignoring you. When you riot, the mainstream will demonize you. Anybody who is encouraging people to protest or riot on the streets either does not understand our reality or is intentionally leading people into a trap. Allow me to explain. The anti-migrant protests are not supported by the mainstream or the system. The people who show up protesting peacefully on the streets will end up ignored by the politicians and the majority of the people in your country. Protesters, while feeling ignored, will become frustrated, maybe even provoked by the police, which will show up attempting to control the situation. They will eventually lose patience and start rioting. This will give authorities and the mainstream media reasons to take further actions. You are not Black Lives Matter protesters. Police won't be kneeling in front of you or allowing you to get away with burning cars on the street. The British Minister of Justice is a Muslim of Pakistani origin. So protests against the spread of mentioned religion in Britain or against Muslim migrants will be taken in part by her as a personal attack, and her drastic actions against protesters were clearly visible, to a point where the British police decided to release some real criminals from prisons to make room for the protesters. The riots of people on our side are reinforcing the positions of oppressing authorities, giving them further reasons to apply new laws, regulations which will pin us down to the ground defenseless, while at the same time weakening our ranks, breaking and scaring even more people away from standing with us when we call for their help. So anybody who is encouraging protesting, which unavoidably will lead either to us being further ignored or to explode and riot, is a very irresponsible person, a bad influencer, or an incompetent leading figure, no matter how charismatic the person is, or how honest and sincere. You are not going to defend your country or stop the uncontrolled migration by protesting or rioting on the streets. You must be smarter than that. So stop listening to those who are encouraging you to do so. Because no matter how much they want you to protest peacefully, the ignorant protesters will eventually become violent because of the frustration. And the outcome without mainstream support is, as always, a further demonization of the people who simply want to stop the destruction of their own homeland. Protests do not work. You saw it before, in the United States, in Canada, and now you have to learn the hard way on your own skin in Britain. While I understand and appreciate the sentiment behind the riots, we must be more strategic and determined in our approach. And before someone asks, then what should we do? Please study the material with the solution and the plan presented on my channel. Consider what I propose, and if you approve it, support me in the realization. Help me reach more people. Follow my requests and instructions according to your own personal skills and possibilities. If you think I am wrong, feel free to debunk my claims and offer a solution. But do not dare to ignore this opportunity, because there is really nothing else that we can do to make a true stand for our future, and the situation will only be getting worse, especially because of the changing demography. This is the only way to save your countries, the future of your own children, but it is a totally different strategy. So if you are interested, consider checking the material on my channel to learn more, and please stop falling for charismatic, incompetent people who are telling you what you want to hear, to manipulate you to do self-destructive actions. I do understand how bad the situation is, that time is running out, but you people need to be more reasonable, or you will lose everything with time.